week on Game, Frags gets down and dirty with the meanest in the Borderlands. It's the footy showdown you've all been waiting for. And we go on a short trip to Japan to take a look at Final Fantasy's 25th anniversary. So stay with us right here on Game. Hey guys, and welcome to another chock-a-block edition of Game. We finally get a peek at what Frags got up to when he got shipped off to Japan for that Final Fantasy 25th anniversary. And I tell you now, I'm still reeling in jealousy. And of course, the usual non-stop action-packed back-to-back gaming goodness that is our show. Are you guys ready? Of course you are, but before we delve headfirst into that, let's get an update on what's causing the digital world to spin in this week's hot off the press edition of The Headlines.
A whole lot of console news in this week's update. It looks like the rumors about the Wii U's launch date were actually true. Nintendo have confirmed that their newest console will be available come the 18th of November, finally ending speculation on the system's launch date. In addition, at a recent press conference in New York, Nintendo revealed more than 50 titles from various publishers and developers all set to release for the Wii U. Among the announcements, titles such as Bayonetta 2, Black Ops 2 and even Mass Effect 3. Not stopping there though, the Big N went on to name titles like NBA 2K13, FIFA 13 and even Aliens Colonial Marines. So great third-party support, but so far nothing that's console exclusive. But at least you won't be short of games to play when you finally get your paws on the machine come launch date. Righto, from one Japanese giant to another, we check in with Sony and the launch of the newest PlayStation 3. That's right, the long-rumored redesign of the PS3 is at last making an appearance. Taking the stage at the Tokyo Game Show, Sony announced the sexy beast, a machine that many are calling the PS3 Super Slim. Coming in at just under half the size of the original PlayStation 3 and 25% smaller than the already released PS3 Slim. The Super Slim PS3 comes priced at $269 for a 250GB model. Pretty costly, no doubt. However, included in the price will be a copy of Uncharted 3 and $30 worth of digital content downloads for the upcoming Sony MMO shooter Dust 514.
Up to speed? Great, but there is no time to slow down. We are picking up the pace and breaking it down beat by beat. Or rather, Frags is. Not sure what I'm talking about? Well, go check out the trailer for Borderlands 2, but not before you watch it get picked apart by the Fraggots in this week's review.
People of Pandora, this is Handsome Jack, your hero. Suffice it to say, Vault Hunters, I'm gonna kill you. You wanna prove me wrong? You wanna stop the greatness that is Handsome Jack? Well, come and get me.
Why, howdy, partners! Now Frags back in the gaming den. Now in today's Rootin' Tootin' review, we're gonna check out a game that shows us nothing goes better with friends than high explosives. This is Borderlands 2. Now, in case you're a little on the slow side, Borderlands 2 is a sequel to one of the standout console releases of 2009, when the original showed us just how much fun you could have when you combine an open-world RPG with a first-person shooter. Delivering all the standard RPG tropes down the barrel of a gun, the original Borderlands was a mishmash of character building, stat upgrades and class types, all delivered with the intensity of a shooting game. Something which outside of Deus Ex really hadn't been tried all that often in the world of video games. But while the game itself was no slouch when it came to action, many gamers, myself included, felt, when it came to the story, Borderlands sure had a lot of catch up to do, with a paper-thin plot which failed to drive the experience. So 3 years on, and the exciting sequel is just about to hit the shelves with all the promise of more story to go along with all that boom boom.
It's cute that y'all think you're the heroes of this little adventure, but you're not. Welcome to Pandora, kiddos.
But aside from its literary aspirations, what else is new in this year's game? Well, stick around as I get down and dirty with Borderlands 2.
Great. Another dead Vault Hunter. Handsome Jack's been busy.
Okay, so first off, let's talk guns, because if you've played the original, you know that one of the game's biggest strengths is just the number of guns that you can pick up. And I'm glad to say that if you're the type of gamer that likes variety, well, Borderlands 2 has got you covered. With a loot system which literally allows for millions of possible weapons, what I really liked was how the game made you think about how you engage an enemy. You see, as you begin to amass your personal arsenal, you'll notice that many of the weapons come with special abilities. You know, things like fire damage, which is great for fleshy monsters, or corrosive damage to wear down the enemy's armor. And it's little things like this which really make the battles in Borderlands 2 feel really dynamic, as you combine some quick thinking with hopefully some straight shooting. Now, when it comes to the story, the good news is that things are a lot more layered this time around, with better writing overall, especially in the humor department, with one of the internet's funniest video game writers, Mr. Anthony Birch, injecting a much-needed dose of wit and humor to the sequel. Borderlands 2 is actually a really funny game.
Sorry about the mess. Everything Jack kills, he dumps here. Bandits, Vault Hunters, claptrap units. If I sound pleased about this, it's only because my programmers made this my default tone of voice. I'm actually quite depressed.
Quest givers especially have a ton of personality, and in my opinion, the strong cast of supporting characters really helps flesh out the world, making it feel so much more alive.
I should have killed your fat ass when I had the chance!
Sorry, what was that?
And finally, if you're tired of the whole post-apocalyptic desert wasteland setting, the good news is that Borderlands 2 comes with a bunch of new locations to go blasting in. From Arctic tundra to the open grasslands, and even a few surprises along the way. All the new location types are lush and just a joy to explore. Now, on the whole, not too many problems with the sequel, but while I did like the changes to the story and the gameplay, you know, there are a few annoying things still with Borderlands 2. If you hated the driving in the first game, well, the good news is that the driving mechanic has been tweaked. The bad news is that it's still pretty terrible. Getting caught on random bits of geometry is a pretty common affair, which can be super annoying, especially if you're miles away from your destination. Also, while I love the fact that you've got a bazillion guns all hiding around the world, you've only got about 8 to 10 spaces to store those guns in. And because of your limited inventory, what you end up doing is stopping the game every 30 seconds or so just to see if the gun that's lying on the floor has better stats than the one you're carrying, slowing down the game to a crawl. And don't even get me started on the countless number of lockers, washing machines, and car boots that you have to open along the way. Now, don't get me wrong, because you know I love my loot grind as much as the next guy, but come on guys, you're killing me. You know, if you've already tried and enjoyed the first game, then Part 2 comes as a pretty easy recommendation, because at its heart, it's still the same basic formula. You shoot guys, and you pick up stuff. However, this time around, everything just shines that much more. From the variety in the quests, to the story, little things I know, but on the whole, enough to make Borderlands 2 feel a lot more polished, and as a result, more fun. Now, of course, it's not perfect, and if you didn't like the basic premise of the series, you know, big guns and quests and all, Part 2 is unlikely to change your mind. But if you're looking for a multiplayer shooter with more depth than, let's say, your Call of Duties, then B2 looks like just the ticket. With a pretty generous amount of content and some of the best multiplayer fun to be had with friends while you level up, Borderlands 2 comes with a meaty thumbs up.
Handsome Frag's all over that one. A great game to pick up with about 30 hours of gameplay that apparently you'll want to play over and over again. Now, the average game rating for Borderlands 2 was a whopping 9 out of 10. Talk about impressive. And you know what else is impressive? What we've still got lined up. So make sure you stick around, because when we return from the break, it's time to scrum down with some great games you can demo for no dollar down. And finally, Frags takes us inside Final Fantasy. That's coming up next on Game. You're watching Game, but seriously, what else would you be doing? Aside from maybe playing the games, but whatever. Speaking of games, we've got a whole bundle of them winging their way to you next, or more specifically, just two. But for football fans, these are the only two that matter. Pro Evo or FIFA, it comes to this.
This week on The Derby, the showdown that you've been waiting for as we pit two of football's most important virtual properties up against each other. It's Pro Evolution Soccer versus FIFA in a grudge match that's been 13 years in the making. Kicking things off with the demo for PES 2013. Miles ahead of previous iterations, this year's demo clearly highlights some of the improvements to the overall flow of the game. Now, the Pro Evo games have always had a distinct responsiveness to them, and this year is no different with an all-new feature they're calling Full Control. This system allows for improved ways to trap the ball if you're a receiver, as well as skills like using the momentum of a pass to turn a defender. In addition, look out for features such as the return of full 360-degree control, as well as little things like manual touch passes for a little of the old 1-2. And when all of these new features are added up, the effect is games just feel more snappy. Now, over in the FIFA camp, not as much of an improvement over last year's stunning release, with EA instead looking to polish up many of the features from FIFA 12. First off, 13 is a tad more speedy. Now, I'll leave this up to you as to whether this is a good or bad thing, but with sliders available to change things up, I don't think this will be an issue for most gamers. What gamers will notice, though, is FIFA's excellent impact engine. It allows for some extremely realistic player collisions. Now, I know we've all seen some pretty hilarious footage of fails from EA's impact engine, but when it does work, it really adds a layer of physicality missing from the Pro Evo series. Alternatively, tackling in PES is still a bit a hit-and-miss affair, with players landing strangely at times and even cases of body parts moving through each other. Now, when it comes to the physics which come into play, it was a tough call, but we're giving it to PES. Now, this category was a pretty close fight with FIFA and their list of bullet points like first touch control, complete dribbling and attack intelligence threatening to dominate the field. But when it came down to it, we just liked the more believable ball bounces which are in PES, with so much variation in just how passes and shots were played. Now this is great, especially when the player is out of position with defenders caught flat-footed as the ball sails over their heads. Now in comparison, the passes in FIFA feel a little bit too scripted, almost like there are only two variations in pass types, long passes and short ones, both of which are intercepted perfectly like 99% of the time. And finally, when it comes to the presentation, gamers will be glad to know that on the graphics front, players are all recognisable in both games. But when it comes down to making the beautiful game even more spectacular, we've got to give it to FIFA 13. With a full suite of licensed clubs as well as some of the best music that we've heard in the sports game, FIFA 13 just brings more of a carnival atmosphere to the game that we all love. So what's the score? Well, considering FIFA 13 seems to be an incremental upgrade, we've really got our sights on Pro Evo 2013 to take it this year. Now the FIFA series is great, don't get us wrong, but we think when it comes to the fun, the PES guys just have the advantage with their unpredictable little football game. But hey, this is just our opinion. Be your own demo doctor and diagnose both of those titles yourself. With the full versions releasing later this month, look out for both FIFA 13 and PES 2013 soon at a game store near you.
You know, I'm inclined to say FIFA, but that's simply because the Brit in me would never call the beautiful game soccer. But who cares what I think anyway? Maybe Frags would, but he's a little preoccupied. He's finally going to bring us inside Final Fantasy.
You know, when it comes to the weird and often wonderful world of Japanese role-playing games, one series in particular rises head and shoulders above anything else out there. Its name, Final Fantasy. With humble beginnings all the way back in 1987, this one series has captured the collective imagination of millions of gamers all across the globe, turning what was at the time a struggling software house into one of the biggest video game companies in the world. But while the franchise has received critical praise from the international press, nowhere in the world is Final Fantasy fever more apparent than in its home country of Japan. So, to commemorate the milestone 25th anniversary of the series, we decided to fly down to the birthplace of this legendary franchise. It's off to Tokyo!
Now, one of the perks of the job is you get to meet your childhood heroes. Now, I'm here with Mr. Shinji Hashimoto, one of the grandfathers of the Final Fantasy franchise. Now, sir, can you tell me a little bit about where the franchise is going now in its 25th year?
まあ今までね本当に25周年本当に皆さんの応援ありがとうございます。これからなんですけどもやはりファイナルファンタジーは常にですね時代の最先端そして究極のファンタジーをこれからも追い求めていくと思いますので応援よろしくお願いします。もうまさに今おっしゃったように本当に最後の一作究極のファンタジーを作ってました最初のファイナルファンタジーがですねそのエネルギーというのがもうこれが最後だと思っているのでクリエイターの情熱まさにソウルエネルギーがですね全て入っているとそれがおそらく世界の皆さんにそのパワーが伝わって今は何応援いただけているかと思いますファイナルファンタジーはですねもうこれからもどんどん進化していきますぜひ皆さんの応援をよろしくお願いします
Now, in conjunction with the celebration, fans were treated to an awesome lineup of activities, including a ceremony panel which included, amongst many, the likes of artist Yoshitaka Amono, the man famous for designing many of the game's characters. In addition, there was also a Final Fantasy art gallery. On display, concept drawings and early illustrations, showing us just how much the series has evolved over the years. But aside from the festivities, the organizers had a few surprises to unveil. First off, what better way to show your fandom than with a whopping 11 pounds of FF goodness? Unveiling a brand new 25th anniversary box set, which contains nearly every Final Fantasy game released and a slew of bonus materials, the guys at Square Enix weren't done yet. also announced an all-new follow-up on the PS3, as we were treated to special footage of Lightning Returns, Final Fantasy XIII. Also revealed was the reboot of Final Fantasy XIV, A Realm Reborn, an MMO which had been recently given some much-needed love. And from the looks of it, it sure has paid off because the game looks amazing. But for me, the highlight of the event was a showcase of a brand new game engine, something the guys at Square Enix are calling the Luminous engine. Now guys, what you are watching is done in real time. I'll let that sink in for a bit while you pick your jaw off the floor. Now unfortunately this is just a tech demo, but if they manage to get this technology out the door soon, the next generation in video games just got a whole lot more interesting. All in all, it was a fantastic event, and as a longtime fan, a wonderful walk down memory lane.
Final Fantasy!
We'll leave you with the soothing sounds of Japan's very own Tokyo Ska Orchestra. Happy birthday, Final Fantasy.
Lucky frags, I absolutely adore Tokyo. Well, we've got some exclusive, never-before-seen footage of frags mucking about in Tokyo, and that'll be up on our Facebook page, so make sure you check that out. I'll remind you about that later on. But first, it's time for us to run off for a quick break. We'll be back in 2, so leave that remote right where it is, because you won't want to miss out on our tribute to fast cars and great graphics. And going on holiday? Well, we'll give you a survival guide to that perfect island getaway right here on Game.
Isolated tropical paradise, complete with dazzling sunsets, majestic wildlife. It's like a postcard, soaked in kerosene. This is virgin wilderness, burned, deflowered, shot full of more holes than soda water. Take a look at Vas Montenegro, the man behind the destruction. Grows drugs, takes drugs. Commands an army of black market pirates. Works for the biggest slave trader in the southern hemisphere. And kidnaps hostages. But you know all about that. While you try to avoid playing footsie with Vas, search for outposts. Use them as a base and to travel rapidly across the island. As for weapons, they don't take credit cards here. You're gonna need some cash. Running side missions like deliveries for the Rakyat out of the jungle can earn you dinero. Hunting and crafting are other options for cash flow. Or you can go lay it all on the line at a poker game. You do that and manage to stay alive, you're gonna end up with some serious firepower. And just maybe you'll have a chance to stand against Vas and his men. Happy hunting.
Kinda makes you want to rethink that beach holiday next summer, hey? Well, initially scheduled for a September release, Far Cry 3 has been pushed back to the end of November this year. Well, here in Singapore, though, Formula One fever has gripped the island and it has grasped game by its hot rubber clutches. So we thought, why not take it one step further and do a little tribute to fast cars, screeching brakes, and awesome soundtracks. It's a look at the best of the racing games on the market. Strap in, boys, because the 5 red lights are about to go out and it's G-force action from here on out. Let's go!
Up first in this week's Motorsports Special, we rev things up in the world of Forza 4. And this month, the latest bit of DLC comes in the form of the September Pennzoil Car Pack, featuring 11 new drool-worthy cars like the 2013 STR Vipers from the American Le Mans series. We've also got a few rarities, classics like the 1960 Aston Martin Zagato, of which only 20 were ever built. Now the bad news is that unfortunately, this new release will not be covered under the yearly subscription Forza 4 Season Pass. So, even owners of the pass will have to cough up some points for these new rides, coming in at 560 Microsoft points, or about $7 US. If you're looking to spruce up that virtual garage, the Forza 4 September Pennzoil Car Pack is out now. Up next, we take a look at an upcoming racing title from the guys at Codemasters. This is Grid 2. Now in 2008, the original race driver Grid won a boatload of awards, not to mention some critical praise. And looking to live up to its big brother, Grid 2 will feature new locations, such as Chicago and Paris, all built around the same action-heavy, high-impact racing that we've all come to love. In addition, over in multiplayer, the game is also set to come with an entirely new progression system, which works in conjunction with RaceNet, Codemasters' online community portal, tracking your race results, rewards, and rivals. All in all, a pretty sweet improvement. So get ready to burn some rubber when Grid 2 releases early next year. And last but not least, with the Formula One World Championship fever still hanging in the air, we thought it apt to close up this motorsport special with the king of the circuit, F1 2012. A stunning entry from the Speed Freaks over at Codemasters, F1 2012 is the only game on the market which features all 12 teams and 24 drivers competing in the 2012 season. Now, in addition to the 20 beautiful tracks on offer, the game also ships with a brand new circuit of the Americas in Austin, Texas. Also new in the game is the Young Driver Test Mode, a tutorial designed to introduce new players to the handling characteristics of a Formula One car. With an all-new Champions Mode, a feature which allows players to go head-to-head against some of today's very best drivers in conditions which they love. If you live for the smell of burning rubber, get a whiff of it on F1 2012, out now for the Xbox 360, PS3, and PC.
There you go, a nice little race car tribute. All we need now is a kick-ass dubstep soundtrack. Well, we're going to wave the checker flag on this edition of Game, but if you need to satiate your appetite for more, head on to espnstar.com/game for past episodes. There's also exclusive footage of Frags in Tokyo when he went there for Final Fantasy on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/ESSGame. And you can also hit us up on twitter.com/ESSGame. We'll see you guys next week or maybe online, so I'll catch you then.